Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to RLAfterShock, your one-stop shop for everything that is European Rocket League esports. I am the Eternal J. Joining me is Digital Bacon here for the 28th episode of the show, and we are well into the RLCS, which of course means there is some more shit to talk about. Bacon, I know you won at Insomnia this weekend, so I have to ask you, number one, how are you doing? Number two, did you watch any of this shit weekend? Because I did not have any time to watch any of the RLCS stuff.
Well, number one, I'm currently munching on some blueberries, so yeah, life's pretty good. And number two, yeah, I watched near enough all the Rocket League this weekend, bar NA, because I just don't have time for NA at the moment. Like, watching everything going on is just too much hassle, especially when it's Easter weekend. And, you got to spend a ton of time with family, and yeah, family before American Rocket League for me.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, for me, it was
EU
work
is pretty
before,
much on par, we'll say.
for me, it was more work, and making my living before, doing this show for free. So, I had to take a miss on this weekend of action. So, yeah, I didn't get to catch any of the matches. I have done no analysis, which means the fact that you've watched everything is a fucking lifesaver. In fact, you were casting a little bit of it, weren't you? You were doing the B-Stream matches for RLRS, yeah. Was it Method versus Veloce and ARG versus the Right Overs? So hopefully you have a few more insights for us on that one to bring to the show when we do our breakdown of everything that is RLCS and RLRS results. Plus, we're talking about Dignitas getting their first win at last. The Vitality squad still going undefeated, and the drama that happened between the Triple Trouble and PSG matchup. And I think that's where we'll start, Bacon, because oh god, like this immediately as soon as this shit hit the fan, like we got an instant message from Trox asking us what our thoughts on the production crew requesting this pause was, and oh fuck me, Bacon, it's like every week there's something new to fucking complain about in this game, like you just can't win sometimes. Last week it was the esports shop items, this week it's this fucking shit show. Oh my god, like
I'm still in a way a little bit mad about the esports shop items. Like, what is it currently on? Well, when I looked last night, there were some TSM wheels that were 1,000 esports points, which is $10 for a pair of wheels. Oh. That I thought was a little ludicrous.
Jesus, that is quite fucking pricey. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but at least you don't have to buy them, so I'm fine. I'm a little bit mad because it's just like, yikes, $10. But if you don't want to pay that much, just don't pay that much.
That is true. But I mean, obviously we could bang on about that for every podcast from here on out until they change it, or we could focus on the new drama, which of course will probably be a bit better for audience retention, because obviously for those of you unaware, during the PSG versus Triple Trouble matchup on the RLCS stream, there was a bit of a technical issue. They had some buzzing noises coming from their game. You can't find this VOD on YouTube, by the way. I checked the match. It's been completely wiped from any official Psyonix channel. But if you do want to check out anything, if you do want to check out the actual specific problem itself, you can go to Duck Moriarty's Twitter, where he actually has it clipped and posted. So it's archived essentially, so you know exactly what the situation was. But there was some buzzing noise. You couldn't hear anything from the thing, and what the production team decided to do was pause the game so they could fix their production fuck-ups. This pause came in a split second before Tadpole was about to score the first goal of the game. Now, Bacon, there are a ton of problems with this. I don't even know where we had to start in terms of layering.
Well, it's a simple one, really. Pausing the game, absolutely fine. But pause it after a goal has been scored when there is no disadvantage or advantage to whichever team. Basically, pause it when there is a natural break in play, not at the most crucial part of a game, because just no. And it even threw the casters off, which I found quite funny, because it just was completely out of the blue, and it just seems like this was one of those fuck-ups which do not need to happen. It ruins all competitive integrity, and it's just, you don't do that. Whoever made the call on this,
yeah, I was gonna say,
that, please.
Whoever made the call on this, I don't know who you've been taking your cues on for what the RLCS actually means in terms of Rocket League esports, but it's not a fucking entertainment program. This is a fucking sports show. This is supposed to be a tournament. This whole thing, it's like the WSOE situation. Where they had that technical issue between what was it? Flipside and Cloud9. I can't remember the two teams specifically, but it ended up, like there was like a lag thing and a goal like got scored or didn't get scored, and they had to rerun it. It was the same thing with that decision right there. They made a decision after the fact and reverted things rather than stopping at a moment of break and play and fixing the issue right there and then. And yeah, fair enough. If this was like a dispute in the game, or there was some sort of situation that fucked up the actual match itself, then I can understand why you take a pause, during break and play. The problem is though that this is a production problem. Now, I mentioned a moment ago that I was at Insomnia Festival this weekend, and during, I believe it was the Rocket League finals, we had a choppy frame rate issue during the final matchup. So what happened is rather than stopping the game and trying to fix it, because obviously we don't have access to that sort of shit, they actually managed to stall for a couple of seconds in between the games and restart the stream, so that way it fixes the frame rate issues, and that way it goes back out to being smooth. That's how you fix production problems. And Insomnia got that right. They're not exactly running the world championship now, are they, Bacon?
Well, no, it was only, was it a $3,000 cup? I can't remember what the prize was.
$3.5 grand.
3.5. Because of course they do it quite often. Like the more sign-ups you get, the bigger the prize pool gets, because that's how tournaments generally.
That's BYOC right there in the UK.
That is it. Yeah, that's how tournaments work. So guys, definitely as well, like just as a quick side note, if you want LANs to get bigger and better, go to
10
them.
fucking LANs. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's just how it works.
Do that, and the scene will grow, right? And it's a bit of a dilemma that we can sort of talk about in much more detail later on down the road. But back to the issue at hand. Obviously, this fucking throws everything in for a loop, because it changed potentially the whole thing, the whole like scheme of the matchup. Obviously, Tadpole was going to score that first goal. In the end, PSG ended up taking that first game, and then it had to go to a reverse sweep with Triple Trouble to win that series. So yeah, you've thrown everything out of the window right there for the sake of production problems, and production problems should be sorted out on the fly. And we definitely don't see in any other format. I mean, talking from my own personal TV production experience, if something goes wrong, you don't stop the show. You keep the show going, because it is essentially a live show, and you fix shit on the fly. That's not what happened here. And again, fair enough, if it was in between games, if they had scored a goal and then taken the pause, then sure thing, I can understand. I don't think we'd even be talking about this right now. But the fact that they didn't, it's, oh man, it feels like they're taking their cues from Stacks, for fuck's sake. Like, it's not to objectively quantify all the best teams in the world right now. No, it's all entertainment, so we can stop the match whenever the fuck we please. But again, Doc Moriarty counteracts that, because by saying, look, esports is not an entertainment form, it is people's careers at this stage, and this fucking whole thing compromises all of that.
Well, at the end of the day, it's competition. People are watching this, yes, I guess, for the entertainment, but it's the entertainment of the best playing each other. It's not for comic relief or anything like that.
Yes,
as
exactly.
Such. To the point, like, if we're watching tennis, I don't know, Wimbledon or the US Open, if suddenly in the middle of a series, it's, I don't know, Andy Murray versus Djokovic, it's currently 14-15, and then they call a pause just straight in the middle when the ball's in play, people would be absolutely bloody fuming at it. No, you wait for a natural break in gameplay and then take the pause. Admittedly, you would hope that in between goals, it would be a very short pause, just so that the flow of the game is not ruined. Because if it's going to be something that it takes a longer period of time, then yes, you got to wait between games. If it takes even, like, we're talking about a 10-minute break, then arguably between series, because flow of the game is a massive thing. We know just from running smaller tournaments that servers going down for maintenance and such, which you get in game, can really affect a series where when one team's got that advantage, it is lost. Like, if they've just won the first two games in the best of 5, server goes down for maintenance, that can then just reduce all that morale, all that momentum to zero. And it really affects a series.
Absolutely, and it's steps like this that if you do, already we have these issues in general Rocket League tournaments, but the fact that the production team also aren't treating it like, like you got to take this with a little bit of care. It's like, guys, This is that you can't have that attitude going forward. I'll tell you right now that this is what ruined Counter-Strike for me. You know, I still love the game, but let me tell you that the people and the community of that game, like, all they want is the fireworks show, and no one actually cares that much about the competitive integrity of the game to the point where
Blast Pro Series.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I was gonna say I probably shouldn't say that because I was working with Messioso this weekend, so he's part of Blast. I don't want to flag on them too much, but yeah, no, but that's a good point. You know, Blast own Astralis. You know, Blast are owned by Refresh, and Refresh own Astralis, so that's a little bit of corruption right there. There was also a recent thing about a tournament called the Knoxfire League, and a report went up about that on a news website on how basically admins and shit were being called out on being corrupt, and how there was potential for match fixing in that tournament and in that league, and it was all being cleared above board by the league to owners and the tournament organizers themselves. And when that shit went up on the subreddit, and you know that, which is the central sort of hub for everything that's not HLTV related reports, and HLTV don't do reports like investigating match fixing, so obviously this is the only place for something like this to get noticed. It got 13 upvotes. Now, 13 upvotes on the Rocket League esports subreddit, that's enough to get you front page. Global Offensive has like hundreds of thousands of subscribers though, so there's no way that's even getting past the news section.
Yeah, so, it's absolutely ludicrous, and for it to happen on the biggest stage where they should know it is...
Yeah, and that mentality, it all led on from shit like this. It starts small. It's like, okay, well, it was a pause. It was a little thing. It didn't, you know, people say, oh, no harm, no foul, because there was not, you know, it didn't,
but in the end, triple trouble, win, no harm, no foul.
That's the theory. The problem, but that's not the problem. Yes, they won the series, but like I said, the first game could have gone very, very differently, because from my perspective, that looked like a decent, like, you know, 60-40% split of a goal right there, to favour of Tadpole scoring it, you know, unless there was some massive choke in the defensive. It looked like it was going in, and that could have changed the entire metric of the game, because Triple Trouble didn't score anything in the Redun's first game. So that is the problem right there. That changes everything, and it's a mentality like that you know goes into being, okay, well, no harm, no foul, Triple Trouble won the thing. No harm, no foul because of a technical issue, and now the servers are fucked up, and now we can't play the matches. Now we've got to redo an entire tournament format to make it work. No harm, no foul. What's that? There's a PC problem. You're going to play on low FPS. No harm, no foul. Match fixing, multi-team ownership, no harm, no foul. It's a slippery fucking slope, guys. It really is. And you know, that's why I'm fucking really annoyed by this. I don't sound it because I'm really tired after insomnia this weekend, but fuck me, like, this is stupid. Like, come on, whose decision was this? This is the worst decision you possibly could have made.
Yeah, and I don't want to keep banging on about it because it's such a simple, like, everyone knows. Exactly,
it's fucking simple is the worst part about it, you know?
Should have never happened in the first place, so I say, let's go on to the next thing.
And the next thing is going to be our tournament roundup, actually, because there's fuck all to talk about this week in terms of the news. We already talked about our mailbag. Of course, thanks Trox for sending that in. We were obviously going to talk about this on stream anyway, or on podcast anyway. Of course, there is no live stream in case you're not aware. But of course, you can also follow the social medias and let us to be notified when we do bring the live streams back. They are on slight hiatus because me and Bacon are busy fucking boys. You know, like I said, I was at Insomnia this weekend, recovering Frag League a little bit later today, so obviously we can't do a live show then. You've got sim racing tomorrow, so things are getting busy over here, but I promise the live shows will come back for Aftershock. And of course you can send in your mailbags by following the Discord link in the description and show notes of all the videos and podcasts, and you can join us, ask us a mailbag, and chances are we'll answer them live on air. We could use some more in the mailbags, so feel free to hit us up. So, yeah, with that being said, we're going to move into the tournament roundup because, well, there's nothing else to talk about other than that controversy. We're going to start off, let's just start off with the results, I guess you could say. Veloce took on the Vikings in the first match of the mainstream. They won that 3-2. Method took on ARG, and ARG won that one 3-1. Veloce took a massive victory against Complexity at 3-1 also, and the Vikings beat out the Rightovers 3-2 up. And then on the secondary stream, which you casted, Bacon, you saw Veloce beat Method 3-2, and then ARG beat Rightovers 3-1. So our standings right now sit at the top two being Veloce and Complexity still, with Veloce being undefeated, Complexity only playing 3 games at 2-1, ARG behind them at 2-1, all separated by 2-game difference, and Vikings at 1-1 with 0-game difference on their board. Then the bottom 4 is going to be Baguette Squad, Method, Rightovers, and Xenamoon in that order, with Rightovers and Xenamoon still yet to get a victory on the board. So let's start with Method on this one, Mr. Bacon. They're not looking too hot at the moment, are they?
No, they're not, but arguably, like, Method have had the hardest opponents. They've had to face both Complexity and Veloce. Veloce coming very close, Complexity in that week one. Method was struggling that day. They've been struggling all sort of like RLRS along. Only going 3-2 in the opening match against Xenomoon in week one. But this week, even Veloce struggling. Both these two teams felt really off in the B-Stream match. I was saying at the time, this is both teams not feeling comfortable with how they're playing. Don't know why, what was the mindset going in. So it's basically who can play better on a bad day. And that just turns out to be Veloce. They're a more comfortable team. They've been together longer. And they were able to pull it out of the bag. It was a 3-2 series, but it was a lot of random back and forth, and it was just a really messy scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really see the match myself, so I can't really comment on that personally. But Method themselves have not had the greatest of starts in the RLRs. Like they had that early victory against Xenomoon, they lost against Complexity, which was expected. But this week they lost against ARG and Veloce, and honestly, I expected of both of those matches that Veloce would have been the bigger challenge. But actually, ARG was the bigger challenge, and I took it 3-1 versus the Veloce series, which was 3-2. So what's going on with Method right now? What's not clicking for them?
Method not clicking is just pure aggression and communication. So they're not intercepting the ball, like going in for 50-50s enough to break down a lot of the attacks of their opponents. And then when they do all go up into attack, they're all up in attack past the midfield line. So it's essentially a ball up and over into the back lines and then just quickly chase down. And, well, in that series, definitely. And we saw it against ARG earlier in the day in the official stream. You just see a lot just chase down, open net for them to score upon. Method have got massive mistakes in defense going on, but once their attack clicks, they can get some good passing plays going. They do just still have to work out their rotations and just team cohesion. And the weird one for me here is that it doesn't come down to Oslon, the new man on the roster. It's actually coming down to Rix, normally, I'm going to say, being out of position. And that's a strange one from the captain.
That's what I was going to say as well. Like, Rich Rondo's positioning has always been pretty stellar ever since, like, the Reason Gaming days. So hearing that from you is like, okay, that's a bit weird. And especially as you say, he's the captain, he's the anchor player, he's the man who's sort of, like, calling the shots for Method. And, certainly, as a captain, I certainly rated him in the past, so... That is quite curious, honestly. Like I don't know how they're going to be able to sort that out in terms of the Method side. Like, especially because you've got to consider as the captain, you're the head honcho. You're the man who's sort of like coming up with the game plan. So, what is his mindset in the game? Is he thinking that it's something he's doing wrong, or is he just going to punt the blame off on his teammates and just call it? It
seems like a lot of frustration to me. That's what it is, and the whole team getting affected because it's a tumble-on, snowball effect. Method though. They're still in this. They've got Baguette Squad and Vikings next week. Baguette Squad should be a win from them. Vikings, if they can get a win, then going up against Right Overs, and if they get the win there in the very last week, Method stay up. They've got two short, I'm not going to say short wins, but should wins against Right Overs and Baguette Squad. And then Vikings is going to be a struggle. But if they get that one, they stay up. We could even see a team stay up this season, just looking at all the losses. And you're expecting Veloce to go 6-1 or 7-1. 7-0. Looking at them currently, it looks more certain to be 7-0, considering Veloce have Right Overs and ARG left, which again should be wins from them. So we could get a situation for the first time within RORS where a team can make it safe, get fourth with 3 wins and 4 losses, and it will come down to game difference. That's a possibility this season, but I'm still expecting it to be 4 wins and 3 losses as your stay up level at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you on that one. Obviously, Method need to try and step their game up because, like, coming into the last season of the Gfinity Elite Series, where they were the top dogs to beat and they were the champions at the end of the day, like, it certainly feels like an underperformance from them. I expected them to have a very good time against ARG. Veloce would have been a bit more tougher. I feel like they probably should have won that series anyway, though. Vikings will be next week, and that's going to be curious because that's obviously the former Fnatic squad, and that's the same team that competed in the Gfinity Elite Series, just minus Snasky, obviously. So that's going to be something we need to keep our eyes on. I think next week that'll be one of my matches to watch. But we'll talk about those in a couple of minutes at a time because I want to move on to ARG, who had both victories this week. They're a bit slow to start in the first week, but the second week they managed to bang it out of the park against Method and then also beat the Right Overs as well. I want to sign in on that Right Over series really because I haven't seen much of them in the last couple of weeks, obviously being busy and all. So what went right for ARG or what went wrong for the Right Overs in this one?
So Right Overs struggled against a very nice, cohesive attack. A lot of aggression coming out from ARG, which beat Method as well. Like I was saying about Method's defense being their weak point, ARG were able to take them down using great offense. It's the Spanish way, isn't it? And so here with Right Overs, it was their defense, which was a little bit knocked down. That's to be expected, like you said, because it's more of a pickup team. They just formed. Like, we're talking the last week of sign-ups before RLRS. So this is a team that's still getting their footing together. And Right Overs could still, like I said about Method, make it into top 4. They're going to be improving as time goes on. And we saw them bring it super close to the Vikings earlier in the day on the last stream, match of the official stream. It was 3-2 in favor of Vikings, and that was super close. It just comes down to Right Overs had problems against massive aggression. So looking at the rest of it, Right Overs next week, I'm expecting to lose to Complexity, and then later down the line in week 4, lose to Veloce, where they can apply that pressure. But to the other teams, who knows? And this is what I was saying, like, with the whole 3 wins and 4 losses being a possibility to stay up. Because a lot of teams, I reckon, will end this season. We're going to have, like, 3 teams on that 3 wins and 4 losses sort of barrier. Because we got 2 really stacked teams this time around. And then the rest being very much up and down dependent on the day. Whereas when you look at last season anyway, you had 4 stacked teams and they were able to just take it from the others. We're in a really weird environment at the moment within Rocket League and RLRS, and well, we've been watching RLCS. That's a weird environment as well, ain't it, for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very weird season with some of the teams we expected to do well not doing well, and vice versa, all the same. And I guess we'll talk about those results in a little bit of time. But for ARG, moving forward for them, how do you think they're going to fare? Because they do have Veloce next week, and that's going to be a tough match because Veloce obviously currently undefeated in the league table, and then they've also got Complexity as well. So they are facing against the top 2 teams in the league play, and obviously we talk about the aggression of the RLRS squads and how it's much more aggression for this lower level of Rocket League, and then the defensive sides come into play in the RLCS. And Complexity, obviously former RLCS talent. Veloce have a lot of experience. I think a couple of them were in the RLCS. I'm not 100% certain about Flame, but I remember Freaky obviously was part of Vitality.
No, Flame was back in Secret days. Remember when they made it up?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. Sorry. Yeah. That's me being a dum-dum basically right there. But for Veloce, obviously, like they're in theory, in terms of just playstyle differential, it feels like that ARG might be struggling against those teams.
I don't know, because this is the ARG are very much separate to the other teams now they play. Again, the whole Spanish bim bam, whatever memes you want to make of it. But ARG next week have both Veloce and Complexity. I'm going to say now, ARG beat Veloce. They could carry that momentum, that sort of massive high, onto taking down Complexity, and then that would be absolutely nuts. But a win against either of those 2 teams, for me, will probably secure ARG into top 4. Because you're taking away from the big teams,
Yeah, I was going to say as well, actually, that is possible. I was just doing the maths real quick in my head. That would put them up 3 wins. They would lose another one 3-2, and then potentially they'd be able to beat out the Vikings next week as well. So, there's a lot of potential for ARG right now. The fact that they've, secured themselves a pretty decent standing by, taking these 2 victories this week obviously means that they're on a very, very good standing at the moment. So, good stuff from ARG. Finally good to see that, the aggression starting to work out for them. It's great to know that obviously the issues from week 1 seem to have dissipated, and we'll have to see into next week whether they'll be able to hold their own against the likes of Veloce and Complexity. It's going to be a tough task, Bacon. So, let's look forward to that one. But moving on to Veloce, we were just talking about them a moment ago for their IRG match for next week. They also took victories this week. 3 of them were on the streams. 2 of them were on the main stream, and another one was against Method, obviously. We talked about that a moment ago. But the big highlight for me has to be the fact that they beat out Complexity. That is fucking insane. That is nuts. Complexity, obviously, on a big hot streak coming into this one, and Veloce. Both teams were in the 2-0 undefeated margin, essentially. So one of them was going to come out on top, but I had my money on Complexity for this matchup.
Yeah, as did most people, I reckon. But Veloce had a series earlier in the day against Vikings, which was super close as well. That one can't be understated because Vikings are looking very good and they are improving. So they're the hot one to take I would argue, the last spot. In the stay up sort of side of the RLRS. But Veloce going 3 overtimes against Vikings and then 3 overtimes against Complexity. This was a super close series. Looking at it 3-1, you might be there going, oh, that was quite a strong win. No, this came right down to the margin, essentially. And then it just came round to game number 4. And Veloce had figured out Complexity. We're just playing a very safe game, arguably, and took them 2-0 on the Otoko. Veloce have got this weird start at the moment where they're not scoring big, really. They're very much winning by 1 goal. That's just how they are doing things these days.
I mean, it's working. I mean, we've certainly seen a lot of overtimes coming from Veloce. Obviously, there was the first 3 games had overtime on the Complexity Veloce matchup, and then the game 1, 2, and 4 had overtime on the Veloce versus Vikings match. The same thing in game 3 for their Baguette squad match, and then Zeno Moon also had a game 3 overtime against Veloce. So there's a lot of overtimes coming in from this squad, and I got to ask, in terms of just the general sort of confidence level from them, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
It's a playstyle thing.
A playstyle thing.
They're not going super aggressive like, you would expect from teams like, we've been looking at Vitality in Barcelona from RLCS. No, these are guys that play more of that closer PSG style where you're going for the numbers. You're not trying to push way too far into attack. You're not trying to focus too much on defense. You're just playing very stable, solid, and just eking out the win from adapting to your opponents. And that's it. They are just trying to revolve around their opponents, figure out what's going wrong. So in a lot of ways, they're not playing their strongest, hence why against, say, Method, they looked very weak there. Still coming out with a win, but that's because they were adapting to their opponents. They're not playing comfortably as such. They're just playing very, I want to say, by the book, doing what they have to do, and that's enough.
Well, it is working so far, 5-0 in the league play season, and they've got 2 more matches to go over the next 2 weeks. They're not even going to be playing in the 5th week. So they've got ARG next week, a match that they certainly could win, and then Right Overs, who, right now...
They beat ARG, they confirm themselves as a top 2 next week.
Yeah,
easily.
Absolutely. But I'm looking a little bit further than that, because the Right Overs in the state that they're looking at the moment, that could also be an easy victory for Veloce. So if they win against ARG, then suddenly that 7-0 season, that perfect season, looks in pristine position right now for those guys.
But remember what happened to Secret last season. That's all I'm going to say. Getting the first 5 games, and then they lost the last 2, which kept them
I was going to say, this is literally the exact same scenario for Veloce from last season as well. So
I'm hoping it's not, because these lads are all cracking players, and they deserve the shot to get back up to RLCS. I mean, arguably, you could say that about near enough all teams, but I think Veloce staying together for not staying together for so long, but continuously trying to adapt. Drop in Tylacto, of course, last season. I hate it because I like Tarlacto as a dude, but it made sense to bring in Niels in his place. Niels, of course, has got all that experience from XL. We're seeing this weird, I want to say, maybe leadership role where you got Flame, who's probably a little bit, well, he's the original player from this team, essentially. He's still left on. But you got Freaky and Niels that want to sort of lead. So it's interesting that it works so well, because normally you would have two submissive players that do their job and then one captain as such, but here you don't have that. You have three very strong players that excel, and you look at it and you're just like a little bit, I want to say, dumbfounded by how it does work so well, but lads keep cracking on.
And it should be noted that last season, when they did go on their losing streak and those two matches that they lost that put them back into the RLRS for this season, they were against Savage and Method, who Savage obviously are now in the RLCS, and Method are a pretty capable squad of their own right, and at the time were looking like a very, very good sort of a very good team. So, you know, I feel like that it's not quite the same sort of caliber for the next couple of weeks for them. Like, I've got ARG, who, yes, are good, and yes, probably could take a victory away, but Right Overs, you know, while they are looking like while they are on paper a pretty good team, they've been yet to prove anything so far in league play. So for me, I'd say that Veloce have a good shout, a very, very good shout at taking that 7-0.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, out of all the teams here, they're, I do believe, the only ones that could, to be honest. I'm quickly bringing it down. I mean, yeah, they are the only team that could do 7-0, and I reckon it is going to turn that way unless, and the only team I can see beating them is ARG next week, and that's just got to be ARG starting their warpath and running with it to try and get that top 2 spot.
Well, let's see whether ARG can claim that. Obviously, they've got potential, but Veloce for the moment are going to be sitting at pole position on the regular season. Looking into next week's matches, we have Method versus the Baguette Squad, Veloce versus ARG, Baguette Squad versus the Right Overs, ARG versus Complexity, and on the secondary stream, we've got Right Overs versus Complexity and Vikings versus Method. Now, what matches are you looking forward to on those, out of that 6?
You almost like direct that as if it's a question. Go comment down in the Twitch chat sort of thing. For me, it's got to be Vikings. Well, of course,
you can leave your comments on the YouTube version of this podcast, or you can write us a review of something on iTunes, which I'm not even sure if that's an appropriate comment system, but I mean, if you want to rate us 5 stars, that'd be great. It helps out the podcast a ton. Regardless, though, Bacon, let me know what your thoughts are. Who do you think?
Vikings ARG. Easy
Vikings
peasy,
ARG.
because that is the fight for, like, probably the best fight anyway, for the 3rd/4th position, and we'll give one of those two teams a massive upper hand to stay up. Like, ARG win that, they go, what am I looking at? I'm looking at week 4 for some reason. I'm being a complete and utter
I was going to say, I was like, hold the fucking phone.
Yeah, but sorry, Veloce, ARG, like I said, ARG, for me, the only team out of the rest that can beat Veloce now. And then last but not least, I'm going to have to go with Vikings versus Method, because this is the redemption song for Method. I know they got Baguette Squad earlier today. That should be a win for Method. Baguette Squad could upset them, yes. But Vikings still are in this, and like I said, that's going to heat up the challenge for 3rd/4th place.
I'm going to go and say that the Vikings Method is my honourable mention for this, for my picks. My picks are actually going to be both the ARG series, because obviously a lot is riding on Veloce getting that victory. ARG, the same could be said for them to try and overtake Complexity, and if they beat Complexity as well, then they stand actually take that top 2 spot away from them. So, you know, especially because Complexity just took their first loss against Veloce. ARG suddenly coming into their own with the aggression. I want to see how well those defensives hold up from the experienced teams. I think that maybe ARG can have a good time if they can find a gap in the fence. So I'll be watching those 2 matches especially over the next week for the RLRS. But of course, you can let us know where your loyalties lie. What matches are you watching? Which teams are you looking for in the next week of the RLRS matches? At RLAfterShock on Twitter, or at Digital Bacon at the Eternal J. And you can let us know exactly who you are rooting for and which matches you are looking forward to the most. So let's move on to the RLCS now, because there's been a very, very weird week for this one, Bacon. Obviously, with the technical issues of the Triple Trouble versus PSG series aside, there are some victories and some defeats that we were expecting, and kind of got taken aback by. So let's start by going down the list. Triple Trouble took out PSG in a 3-2 reverse sweep, obviously. I mentioned a little bit earlier. Vitality completely swept out the Bricks at 3-0, and then TSM and FCB had a back and forth that eventually ended with TSM taking a 3-2 over them. Dignitas stomped the Mouse Sports side 3-0 for their series. Excuse me, and then PSG 3-2 on their board against the Bricks, followed up by Vitality winning out against TSM at 3-1 on their board, which leaves us at the table. Vitality standing at the top, undefeated again at 5-0, followed up by TSM at 3-1 on their board. PSG and Triple Trouble pulling the third and fourth positions at 2-2 apiece. FC Barcelona at 1-2, the Bricks at 1-3, and then the bottom two with Mouse Sports and Dignitas at 1-3, with Mouse Sports pulling ahead of Dignitas by a single game difference. We'll start with the undefeated boys. Vitality have had absolutely no fucking problems holding on to this. Like, oh my god, they have lost a single game in... Oh, sorry, two single games in the last 3 weeks. Like, they're insane right now. They are looking like the new Dignitas.
Oh yeah, and those games were lost to PSG, their biggest rival, who now they look to absolutely dominate, and TSM. So tough opponents it is. But Jay, I can just keep getting smugger and smugger on this one, because can you remember before it all started?
Yeah,
I was there.
That was
Vitality
a very...
winning it. Mm-hmm.
And then I was just like, I remember you said that. I was like, that's a bold fucking prediction, boy. You know, there's plenty more teams, you know, like take a look at the flip side, Brick side. What about TSM? You know, like, you know, I'm not really sure if Vitality are going to be able to pull it. And then, yeah, this has happened. Yep, holy shit. Vitality are looking so fucking good. Like, I don't even need to watch the matches to take a look at how, you know, well this went for them. Like, you just have to take a look at the scores and the series lines. They took in their Brick series, they took a 4-0 game against them. And against the TSM side, obviously, they didn't even let them get past a 3-goal deficit at a certain point. You know, there was a 4-1 game at to start off the whole thing. And yeah, it was an overtime at the end of it, but Vitality took it in 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Like, these guys are just looking really, really good right now, Bacon. And I don't even know what could stop them. Like, you know, is there a team with potential to do that? Because right now, I mean, you know, the best chance is the team below them in the table. This team's on the mid, and they've already lost to them once.
Yeah, basically, they need... A team that's going to beat Vitality are going to be very heavy demo-based to remove a lot of plays that they start up, because Vitality are all about those passes between each other and then just using massive build-up pace to get a goal. And no one's really gone for that, because if you go for the demos, and you have to weaken your defense technically by being out of play. So it's a very awkward scenario. I don't see either of the remaining two EU sides, Triple Trouble and Mouse, taking Vitality down. I reckon it will come down to one of the Americans in the World Finals, you know, at LAN, doing it. And if no one can, we could see Vitality just do the whole run, essentially, because their playstyle at the moment is so new, so unique, that no one has figured out a way, really, to counter it. Because Rocket League we think of as very much a continuous strategy. It's quite hard to coach and come up with strategies within Rocket League, but it's just more a comfortable play style that works for you. And Vitality's at the moment is just dominating.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I can't disagree with you on any of those points. Like, yeah, I don't see any way that anyone else from Europe can stop them. You know, we've seen the biggest names face off against them. We've already seen Dignitas fall down and bow to their feet. We've already seen FCB come out swinging and also bow back down to their feet more on them a little bit later. You know, like, I can't see Mouse Sports or Triple Trouble doing that much, you know, because they're both still looking in shaky-ish form, not like 100% like the top 6 team or the top 8 team that we expected to see them doing. And, you know, like, yeah, I just can't see it. You know, we've already seen the big squads come out and challenge, and all of them have fallen down so far. So, yeah, another situation where I'm looking at it like it's actually quite likely to see the flawless season out of the RLCS with Vitality.
Yeah, and that was a massive surprise for a lot of people beforehand. It all comes down to Dignitas dropping off a little bit. Barca are doing very nicely, within reason. Like, of course, they're still at 1 win, 2 losses. The win was against Dignitas, which I know a lot of people will say was a gimme since they've lost 3 as well. But the loss to Vitality doesn't particularly matter. because everyone else is going to lose for Vitality, so whatever, it don't matter. And then against TSM, that for me was the real test for Barca. That first match, Jay, 8-1 in favour to Barca. And then TSM just worked out afterwards how to beat them and slowly slugged away. It then followed up 2-0 to TSM, 2-0 to Barca, 3-1 to TSM, 2-1 to TSM. A super close series, bar that first game, where Barca just came out and TSM weren't ready for them.
Well, actually, yeah, I was going to move on to that as the next second point, to be honest. Like, what is going, Barca very clearly have a lot of talent, right? And they very clearly have been able to, they've been able to beat some of the big names. I think that looking back in the past with their big victory against Dignitas, like, now that we've seen the context of where Dignitas really stand overall and everything, like, that victory can be explained, but Barcelona have still, done some good work. Their series against Vitality was certainly not a very good series, but as you say, 8-1 for FCB against TSM. The talent is there to get these series and get these games done. But what are they missing? Like, what's the issue here? What's the problem?
It still comes down to their defense, essentially. The one against Vitality, where they got 0 goals, was purely them not being able to handle effective pressure. By that I mean, instead of just your opponents, instead of Vitality just continuously hitting off that backboard, waiting for an opening and then scoring, Vitality create options themselves. They're not just going for that pressure against backboard. Instead, they'll keep complete control of the ball. They know how to essentially pull back, go back to their own end, wait for the hit downfield, and then pick it up and continue again. Vitality are just nuts in that regard. Barca don't know how to deal with it. A lot of other teams don't know how to deal with it. So that one, I'm just going to say right off, don't think about that really. But against the other teams, TSM, you got to remember, was coming into this season as the second seed, like the second favourite team. And they're still super strong. So for them to go to Game 5, that series was bloody good to watch. And so the only problem I can see coming out from Barca is that defense, and it's all because, we've said it before, they've got 3 very aggressive players, bar Alpha, who can just do fucking everything. Bluey didn't seem there as much this week. Devo was popping off. Devo's back in form, which is great to see. But it seems like Bluey's caught in between, do I keep being my normal aggressive self, or do I need to start working on defense? And it's that weird, they're coming up against these brilliant teams on the regular, and they're questioning their normal Barca savage playstyle, and then to this other playstyle which they want to maybe develop, which is more of the standard EU playstyle,
Well, they've got to make a decision on one or the other, I mean, personally, I would say going back towards more the standard EU style, because the problem with developing...
say no, go with Barca, the classic style for them. Just hammer out the attack and then somehow adjust quick retreats. Basically, how Vitality move back into defense is just keep that standard Barca, bashing off the backboard, and then good clinical follow-ups. Definitely you see a lot of aerials coming out from Barca, but then have one man, or always be ready with one player to quickly dart back into defense, get an interception whilst the second player is darting back into defense to the goal. And that is just what needs to be figured out there.
I definitely didn't just whack my microphone, by the way. No one saw that. No one heard that on the podcast. It's fine. Don't worry. Everything's good. It's all fine. It's just it's problem with your headphones. Stop with my microphone. Rest assured. What I was going to say, my argument against that is that when you build a team around firepower like you do with Savage or FC Barcelona, The thing is that when you have so many firepower-based players, is that if they start underperforming, then suddenly you've got nothing else. You've got no defensive elements, you've got no midfield elements that can try and keep pressure against the other side when the striking elements all go to bed. And that's my main issue. That's my main issue is with an FC Barcelona or with a Savage. We talked about it a lot last season, how we thought they were going to struggle here in the RLCS when they when they got promoted. It was because obviously they have a very fast attack play style, which can probably take a couple of good games against the likes of Solo mid or Team Vitality. And when it comes to the overall series, they'll get outplayed because they'll outread the offensive line, get the defense together, and counterattack. And that seems to be mostly in line with what's happened so far in this season. We certainly were gushing and seeing what they could do, but now that it's come to crunch time, they certainly don't seem to be able to bring that offensive play to work as consistently as we hope.
Well, arguably as well, Jay, here, they've had the hardest opponents so far. With both TSM and Vitality having to face off against them, when they're coming up, next week they got Mouse. I reckon they'll fucking smash Mouse. I know Mouse has improved, but still, I doubt they can handle that aggression. We saw Mouse get dismantled by Dignitas, and that was Dignitas looking quite poor this week. But essentially, Barca, they've had the hardest games already. Now they've got Triple Trouble, which is like an old Classico for them, which Triple Trouble do quite often find. They used to find Savage, now Barca, of course, their bogey team. Barca then has PSG, which is going to be a big question for me in the last week. But then next week, they got both Bricks and Mouse. Mouse should be a win. Bricks will be very heavily dependent on how those guys are feeling on the day. Because Bricks, again, the old F3 side, adopt as well around their opponents. I had that problem, I was saying about, it's a little bit iffy when it comes to Veloce, but it's working for them in RLRS. Bricks do that so well in RLCS, where they can cut series very close. Like Mouse were playing phenomenal last week, so not this weekend just gone, but the one before, where they were finally looking like a good team, but Bricks was still able to take them down. Against Vitality, they cut this very close, trying to adopt to Vitality, but just couldn't do it. And then again, against PSG, Bricks always drop game one, and then they try and work it out there onwards, and it comes down to whether or not Barca can just work around Bricks changing to them. So expect Bricks to start pulling out demos and such, really trying to hurt Barca. And then if Barca can avoid them and set up more of a passing play style, or whether it'll be the choice of solo plays, we don't know. It comes down to the day. And for me, next week anyway, because you're going to ask me it later, that's going to be the one to watch. It comes down to, can Barca really prove themselves on the RLCS level? Because that is the one opponent which I reckon could cause them some troubles, but they should be able to beat, and it will show the mental aspect to the team.
I mean, I'm going to forget about that, so keep that in the back of your mind, because I'm definitely going to ask you about that a little bit later on during the show when we come to close things out. But, you talk about the Bricks a little bit. Let's talk about them as well as a whole of where they stand at the moment, because they had a heavy loss to Vitality and then came close against PSG, but ultimately could not get a series victory this week. And I wanted to ask you about the sort of play style we talked about last week, of how they essentially not throw game one, but they use it as sort of like a loss leader to try and gain control of the series. It didn't work against Vitality, because Vitality just seemed to have a read on them 24/7, as you do. It is Team Vitality after all. They are looking fucking amazing. And against PSG, though, they had a 6-1 first game, a 2-1 second game, a 4-0 third game to put them on match point, and then PSG came back and won that series as well. So is that a problem with the Bricks? Like, where do they go? What's up with them? They won WSOE. They had a really good showing there, but since then they have gone very, very quiet, especially in the RLCS.
So Bricks, remember that first week against Triple Trouble, Speed was over in America, and so that's what they'll account that to. I don't know, 100% is it that, but I'd imagine Speed was on a laptop or something.
I think that's a fair sort of like assumption to make.
Yeah, we'll allow that. Admittedly, Bricks, they should have really brought in their sub, arguably, but that was the decision they went with, so let's not really put too much on that one, of course. But looking forward to them, Bricks, like I said, they should be able to take down Barca. Like, this is, again, the big highlight match, because it really shows Bricks can take down Barca, then Bricks will get the upper hand over Barca, being that sort of win up on them, and so should be able to solidify them into top 6, you'd hope anyway. And then they've got other teams in the last week. They've got 2 matches, Dignitas and TSM. Now, that is troubling for me because Dignitas by then will probably be back in form. Dignitas are cutting this close, but they'll be back in form, and TSM look good. Like, TSM's only loss is to Vitality, and I expect it to stay that way. Bar, like I said, Dignitas putting it back in the very last week. So here, Bricks really need to get this win next week, and then they've got a troublesome last week with both TSM and Dignitas to go against. So Bricks are in a bit of a sticky situation right now, but a win, as we know, being 2 wins, 5 losses, can just eke you into top 6 of league play. And the way they cut games very close is going to be favourable, because you look at them and you see with with a lot of teams that lose, it's outright 3-0s, like Barcelona losing to Vitality 3-0. Bricks, they don't get that same sort of like heavy dominated defeat. Bar again, Vitality, because Vitality are just fucking nuts. Against other teams, if they do lose, like against PSG, it'll be by 1 game, 2 max.
Yeah, no, I'm going to agree with you on the notion that Bricks do need to step it up. Right now, they are running out of time to try and get some victories on the board. You know, they currently are barely sitting in the top 6. You know, they are just above Mousesports and Dignitas. They actually are tied with Mousesports, not only in the in the score, but also in the game difference as well. They are both on -4. I think that the Bricks only win it out because they have 1 extra victory versus 1 extra loss. So they're by technicality, I think it's like game percentage victory. I'm not 100% sure how they managed to break that down. But the bottom line is that the Bricks still are. They need to start getting together. They need to start getting their shit together. In my opinion, you know, they are going to have some very tough opponents.
It's a weird problem because it's just basically EU is stacked, and Bricks' style. Like NA teams struggle against Bricks because they are very much, I want to say, single-minded in the strategy and don't adapt and change that much. So Bricks can quite easily lose that first match against an NA team and then go on to win it. So if Bricks can make it through to LAN, they're going to have a fucking good run, but they're going to struggle to get to LAN.
I was going to say that as well. Like, what are the chances that they can make it to LAN? Like, it feels like that if they do struggle in the next couple of weeks. Sorry?
It'll come down to the seed, essentially, because we're looking at this. Like I said, I reckon Dignitas jump up into the top 6. Like, they should improve from here on out. They are good enough to be able to do that, and it seems like they just have been fluffing this half-arse so far. So if you're looking at the teams there from 3 to 6, PSG, Triple Trouble, Barca, and Bricks, who out of them are going to drop down? And for me, I reckon it'll be most likely Bricks, which is a bit harsh to say, but bar that, we could see a team like maybe Barca draw. I don't know, Triple Trouble maybe. It's a hard one because Triple Trouble still have Vitality, Dignitas, and Barca. Now Barca's the bogey team, like I said. You got Vitality, so everyone's going to count that being a loss. And then, like I said, Dignitas coming back into this. So that match actually next week is my second highlight. If Dignitas beat Triple Trouble might be dropping down into the bottom 2, which is really harsh for me to say. But if Triple Trouble win that, then Triple Trouble is safe.
I don't know. I'm still not 100% convinced by Dignitas, and I guess this will be our final talking point for the RLCS because they have got a victory on the board, but it is against Mousesports, who were the team that we pinned to essentially be relegated this season. They still managed to lose a majority of their games, 4-9, so that a -5 game difference in that one. And it's just like, yeah, okay, they've beaten Mousesports, sure, but personally, I would rate Triple Trouble above Mousesports. I'd rate the Bricks above Mousesports. I'd rate TSM above Mousesports, and those are all the opponents that Dignitas have left. And you know, like, yeah, it's a 3-0 victory. Yeah, Mousesports still all looking all right in terms of their aggressive form, but, you know, they are also sitting at a similar sort of level. They still, other than their initial series against Triple Trouble, and other than their impressive performances from a lot and such, they've still not been able to combine all that to get, you know, the necessary series is under their grasp. You know, they still lost to the Bricks. They still lost to Dignitas. They still lost to TSM so far. So they still are very, very low down in terms of the RLCS rankings. And Dignitas, you know, taking a victory above them is not surprising in the slightest. You know, Triple Trouble will be a match to watch for me, in my opinion, but like, I'm have my doubts that Dignitas can still recover. Like, something's not clicking for this team right now.
Yeah, but again, doing better. like you said, yes, it was against Mouse Sports last week, but Mouse Sports have been doing very good so far in league play, beating Triple Trouble, taking a game of TSM, getting very close to taking Bricks as well. And like I said, with the TSM one, that was very close. Taking one game and then two of the other games were 1-goal differentials. It was just the opening game by TSM was complete and a blowout in their favour 4-1. But against Bricks, that was a very odd series. 3-2. They won the first game in overtime. Then they lost 7-2, lost 5-2. Able to take a win 3-0 and then lost in the very last one 2-1. It was a super, super weird series between them. The week before last, and so Mouse are in an odd case, but Mouse still have Vitality to go up against, so that should be a loss. They've got PSG and Barca, which is going to be an odd case, and I can't see them being able to handle all the attacking pressure that Barca will be able to put on, and PSG are too solid unless Mouse somehow can get that again. I know a lot hates the term, but the cherry picker sort of role, where essentially he goes and just manhandles the defense of PSG, and then it's ready upfield for a pass to be able to just put that away. If that works against PSG, good for them. But otherwise, I'm expecting the games against Barca and Vitality to be losses. So Mouse probably are going to be bottom two, and it just comes down to Dignitas. Can they pick it up? When they half-arsed it against Mouse, they were still 2-0, 4-1, and then 4-0, Jay. This was Dignitas looking their best so far in league play, and it was still half of what we've seen from Dignitas in the last year, you know? So for them to get back to that level, even to get between, like, basically 50% power, get up to 70% Dignitas power, then we could see them take down Triple Trouble, which would put them in a good position, and then go into last week, which they're going up against two hard opponents in Bricks and TSM. Dignitas could even ramp it up there. So Dignitas are on the come up.
Well, we'll have to see whether or not they'll be able to go ahead and, you know, come up into the same sort of standing. I mean, LAN certainly is starting to slip away from their grasp relegation, maybe up for the former world champions here.
Well, you say that, though. They've just got to make it into top six, like I said, with all the other teams, and then it comes down to seeding. You know, we're expecting Vitality and Solo Mid to be top two. That is best fucking scenario for Dignitas right there, because they're the two which they could struggle against. The other lot, when it comes around to week 6 to the regional playoffs, they can potentially, and they would still be the favourites against those other teams. And it's just because Dignitas have had a shite 3 weeks. For them to get the shitness out of their system early on and then be able to come back stronger is good.
We'll have to see whether they do that. I mean, you know, the Triple Trouble series will certainly be the way to prove it to me, certainly to prove themselves. Yep. But for the time being, I'm still not convinced by Dignitas. I feel like this is I'm just, there's a part of me that does not feel like this team is going to be able to perform in that series. But that will be one of my series to watch. Your series to watch was that one and the Vitality TT one as well, was it? Or
I can't. No, Barca Bricks.
Barca Bricks. So Barca Bricks and Dig Triple Trouble are going to be your matches to watch. I'm going to go Triple Trouble Dig and Mouse Sports Barca. And I picked Mouse Sports Barca because I feel like that one could end up being an important one for Mouse Sports. Barca have been not looking that great in the last couple of weeks.
You're a masochist, you know that. That's it. You just want some. You just want to see a dominating thrashing. That's it.
Look, right, okay. Mouse Sports have the chance to actually overtake Barca if they win that series. And Barcelona will be stuck up shit's creek unless they can also beat out the Bricks, which would be another big tough challenge for them. So I'd like to see how Mouse Sports handle that because, you know, both teams have some pretty decent attacking forces in a lot and Bluey and Alpha to a certain extent, you know, was the FCB side.
And Devo.
Mouse
aren't strong enough in the defense to be able to handle it because they've got a two-man solid defense. But
FCB have been struggling in the last couple of weeks.
That is it. That's the only way this is going down, Jay. It is two bulls going head on. Unfortunately, one bull has just got much sharper horns and can just absolutely decimate the other. Mouse, unfortunately, ain't going to do it on that. They've got a better chance against PSG later on that day.
We'll see. Regardless, though, I feel like that'll be an interesting one to watch. I feel like that could have some upset potential. So that's what I'm going to say. You want to disagree?
It's a 3-0 for Barca, that one.
Disagree. I disagree all you want, but I'm gonna stay true to my word. Those are my matches to watch. And also, after that fact, we've got even more after that one as well. One more week of league play left, and this next week will also decide essentially where we stand in terms of the final few tiebreakers. So that'll be a very interesting show for next week as we do come back for another episode of Aftershock. For now, though, we are done. A short one. We're actually going to get just about the hour mark this time, Bacon. I mean, to be fair, like season time, there's not a lot to talk about other than the season itself. So I think we need some bigger news and some more mailbag
in the actual season.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You don't. There is no transfer window. It's not like here in week 3 we're going to get a chance to see a roster shuffle. Just like let's fucking change everything. That's not going to happen in Rocket League. But we'd like to see some more mailbags. So if you're a listener and you want to send us a mailbag, then you can follow the Discord link in the show notes and description of the video and audio versions of this podcast, and you can send us a question or topic that you want us to discuss, and chances are we'll answer it during the podcast recording. And also make sure to follow the Twitter at RLAftershock and the twitch.tv/RLAftershock, where the return of the live shows will be coming in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Again, it's all timing. It's all just a shit level of timing. So we'll work on that and we'll let you know as soon as that comes up. But last couple of weeks of league play are coming through for the RLCS and the RLRS. Bacon, are you excited? Any final words before we send off for the end of the show?
Yeah, of course I'm excited. I mean, RLCS and RLRS each time is fucking fantastic. RLRS, of course, I still think is a little bit more interesting than RLCS just because the ties are the caliber that's there. Of course, we always complain about the format. Like, RLCS is too safe to stay up in a sense of the top 6 out of 8 stay up. With RLRS, you've got that more higher caliber. Top 2 go up and then the 3rd and 4th place just stay in RLRS. So for me, that you get a lot more excitement out of that. So these next couple of weeks, you're finding out about RLCS, but week 3 of RLRS is going to start showing the difference in the vibe between teams, which is going to be awesome.
Awesome. Well, we'll have a look forward to that over the next couple of weeks. Again, we got the RLRS kicking off on Friday with the mainstream stuff, and of course on Saturday, excuse me. No, wait, it is Sunday, isn't it?
It is Sunday.
It is Sunday. Fuck. See, the insomnia. Like, usually you work 3 days. Like, you work the Friday through Sunday. This time I just worked the 4 days for the grand finals of CS:GO on Monday. So my fucking weekend is completely thrown out of whack. So I have no idea which day is which anymore. Right. But regardless of my fucking time zone issues,
isn't it? Yeah.
It's such a hard life, man. It's such a fucking hard life. Like, I got third world problems right now. Regardless, though, we're gonna end up for another show. Hashtag Caster Problems is the new show. Hashtag. I think you can probably we'll throw that up as like a bit of an Easter egg next time. I don't know. Either way, that's the end for this week on the Aftershock. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you back here next week for more. I've been the Eternal J. That's been Digital Bacon, and once again next week, same time, same place, there's even more of the Aftershock.